Hello, students who are taking the Math for Business and Finance or the Math Application subject. We're continuing on with the Chapter 7 Summary Practice Test, and we finished on question 4, test number question 4. So let's pick up with number 5 here. Let me get my pen. Okay, it says here, Best Buy buys an iPod from a wholesaler for a $300 list and a 5% trade discount. What is the trade discount and what is the net price of the iPod? So just quickly diagramming it out, this is $300, which is 100%. And if this here is 5%, that means this amount has to be 95%. And we know that there's this relationship between dollars and amounts and percentages, right? So if this is 300 and that's equivalent to the 100%, okay, and we know that the trade discount's 5% over here, that means the net price has to be 95%. So we can actually multiply the 5% times the 300, which is 15 bucks. And we could take the 95% times the 300 and get 285. Or we can just do the 5% of the 15. 5% of the 300 is 15, and then subtract the 2 to get the 285. Okay, relatively simple. So we'll move on. All right, Jordan's of Boston sold Lee Company of New York computer equipment with a $7,000 list price. Sale terms were 4% 10, net 30, FOB Boston. Jordan's agreed to prepay the $400 freight. Okay. All right, so before I go any further, we have Boston here, and we have New York here. Okay, this is Lee Company, and this is Jordan, and here's our docks. So FOB Boston means this is the shipping point, okay, which means Lee Company is responsible for the shipping. Now, Jordan's is going to prepay the $400 in freight. Okay, so they're going to include the $400 in freight on the invoice. All right, and if let's say they didn't prepay it, okay, well then the $400 would not be on the invoice, and Lee would have to pay the, they would have to arrange the shipping company themselves. That's how it would work in the real world. Lee would call up a shipping company and have them transport, the computer equipment, right? But oftentimes, a lot of times, the seller will make the arrangements for the shipping, pay for it, and then bill the customer for it. Okay, so that's what all of that FOB shipping is all about. Remember, that's FOB shipping or FOB Boston. If it was FOB destination, that means Jordan would have been responsible for the shipping and they wouldn't bill a Lee Company for it. Okay, so Lee pays the invoice within the discount period. What does Lee pay Jordan? Right, so there is no trade discount here. Okay, there's no quantity discount or anything like that. All there is just the terms discount of 4% 10, net 30. And it's saying that Lee paid the invoice within that discount period. So they get a 4% discount within the 10 days. Right, so we have $7,000. And since we want to know what Lee pays Jordan, we don't want to know what the discount amount is. We want to know what the net price is. So if we have 4%, the complement is 96%. Okay, so we multiply the $7,000 by 96%, and we get let's see here, $6,720. Okay, so that would be the price of the net price of the computer equipment. But we have to add back in the $400 for the freight, the shipping, because we don't take discounts on shipping, right? And that means the final amount is going to be $7,120. Okay. Number 7, Julie Ring wants to buy a new line of Tonka trucks for her shop. Manufacturer A offers a 14.8 chain discount. Manufacturer B offers a 15.7 chain discount. Immediately in my mind, I'm comparing one with the other to see who gets the best price, okay? Who offers the best discount structure. Both manufacturers have the same list price. That's important because if you had two different amounts, you're talking about apples and oranges. You're not talking about apples and apples. But because they have the same list price, it really doesn't matter what that amount is. All we're going to be concerned with is the chain discounts. So which manufacturer should Julie buy from? So A has 14.8, right? So the opposite of 14% is 86%. And you multiply that by the opposite of 8% is going to be 92%. And that gives us 79.12%. Okay. And if you take that from 100%, okay, that means they're getting a 20.88% discount. That's what A is giving. Okay, B has 15.7. So the opposite of 15 is 85%, and multiply that by the opposite of 7 is 93%. And that's going to give us 79.05%. And of course, if we subtract that from 100, we end up with a 20.95% discount. Okay, so obviously B, we're going to go with B because that percentage is greater. 20.95, we're getting what, about 7/700ths of a percent better than from B, better than A. Okay, so the answer would be B. Next problem. Office.com received an $8,000 invoice dated April 10th. Terms were 2% 10, 1% 15, net 60. So on April 14th, Office.com sent a $1,900 partial payment. What credit should Office.com receive, and what is Office.com's outstanding balance? Okay, so let's draw the timeline here. So this is April 10th. We'll write that a little bit better. That's right, 4/10. And we have 2% 10, so that would be 4/20th. We'd get 2% here. And if they didn't pay it within that period of time, we have 4/25, which means we would get a 1% discount. And then the net is 60 days. Okay, well, it's telling us that on April 14th, they sent a partial payment, so I don't have to worry about what my net is at this time because it's not asking me how much would be owed on that particular day. But they are paying it on the 15th, which is right here, so it falls within the 2% discount period. Right? Okay, so they're going to pay $1,900 as a partial payment, and we want to know what the credit should be. Okay, so if you recall, we're going to divide by the opposite, the complement reciprocal of the 2%, which would be 98%. Okay, why? Because we're giving them the full $1,900, but we get an extra 2% credit. Okay, and in that case, if we take $1,900 and divide it by 98%, we end up with 1938.78. So that is the amount of a credit that they receive. And of course, we take the $8,000 and we subtract the 1938.78, and we get, let's see, 1,6. We end up with an outstanding balance still due of $6,061.22. Okay. All right. One more problem, and we're done. Okay. Logan Company received from Furniture.com an invoice dated September 29th. Terms were 1%, 10, end of month. List price was $8,000 and the freight was not included. Logan receives an 8%, 7% chain discount. Freight charges are Logan's responsibility, but Furniture.com agreed to pay the $300 in freight. Prepay the $300 in freight. Logan pays the invoice on November 7th. What does Logan pay Furniture.com? Okay, so they receive an invoice and it's dated 9/29, and the terms are 1%, 10, end of month. So that means it's after the 25th. Okay, so we go to October 10th, the 10th day of the following month, and since it's after the 25th, we add one more month to that. So the discount period is all the way up until November 10th. Okay. Now, Logan is paying the invoice on November 7th, so it falls within that discount period, right? And that's as far as terms are concerned. So they're going to be able to take a 1% discount as far as the terms are concerned. But before we do the terms, we have to take care of the chain discount. Remember, you're always handling the chain discount or the trade discount or the quantity discount. You do all of those discounts before you do the terms, because remember, we never know when someone's going to pay somebody. So you're not going to take, the terms discount beforehand. It's not calculated until it's actually paid for. But in this case here, we have a chain discount of 8% and 7%. So that's 92% times 93. And that gives us 85.56%. Okay. And if we take the 8,000, which is how much the invoice was for, and freight not included, okay, and remember the freight is going to have to be added in later on. So if we take the 8,000 and we multiply it by the 85.56%, we end up with, let's see, $6,844.80. Okay, so that would be the amount that would be paid, the net price. Okay, but the net price before freight. Right? But we also now have to take the 1% for the terms. So we multiply that by 99%, because 1%, opposite is the reciprocal is 99%, which gives us now an amount of $6,776.35. Okay, and then to these $6,776.35, we finally add in the $300 for the freight. So the total amount that's going to be paid is $7,076.35. Okay, right. Remember, the trade, chain discounts, quantity discounts, all of that comes first. Then comes the terms, and then lastly we add in the freight. Okay, and with that, we're done with the summary practice test, and we'll move on. See you in Chapter 8.